The conductor, if you don't know, was leaving. Our subscriptions were falling by about 10% a year. That's not good. We were literally a week away from bankruptcy. I came in about a year later, in 2012. And as part of what we do, every year we look at our market segments at the highest level. We just look at our segmentation. And we define our core as people who attend 6 or more concerts a year. Our committed folks, our patrons, are typically those who come 2 to 5 times a year. And then our casual are people who come once a year, maybe for an annual event like Messiah or Holiday Pops. But they just attend once a year. A number quickly stood out. I was just on the job for a few months, and the number on the screen that stood out and will be ingrained in my mind for the rest of my life is 15,834. That number was the number of households that the Phoenix Symphony transacted with that year. It blew my mind. Here I am as a marketer in Phoenix. I think I've got 4 million potential customers. Okay? My mindset changed that day because now I quickly realized that my job wasn't to get all 4 million people to know about the Phoenix Symphony. It's great if we can, but I'm going to be a hero if I can just get the next 1,500. So why am I out spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on impressions that aren't going to help drive this? So that was a big turning point. Oh, thank you. A quick update. So here's where we are today. Our earned revenue, our mostly ticket sales, is up 65%. Single tickets, which is the biggest line item, and what we're going to talk about, is a 145% increase. Subscriptions are up 2%. It was down 10% before, so that's great. Our paid attendance is up 27%. And then last season, we had record attendance, we had record single ticket sales, and we had record overall earned revenue. So things were going very well. We'll get into some updates for 2017-18, which is the season we're in right now. This really fancy chart is just an analysis of what we spent our money on historically. So on my right, you'll see a fairly traditional mix. Back in 2011, print ads are that greenish color, and you'll see on the far left the digital shift that we've made. And you'll see the lines in the middle are our revenue trends going over. So as we moved away from traditional media and plowed more into digital, you can see that sales followed, and we'll dig into this. Okay, I'm not going to lecture a room full of marketers on the 4 Ps, but I do want to say 2 things about this. If you don't know what the 4 Ps are, then ask me after. I actually hate the term digital marketing because in most cases it's not. It is digital advertising in most cases, or digital promotion, which is just the 1 P. We do all of these things, of course. We're aggressive on product. We have a very wide ranging of season. We've got something for everyone. We work on price. We do revenue management. We're aggressive on that. Venue optimization, all sorts of things. But what we're going to talk about today is just digital advertising. Oh. So here's what we don't do. Okay? For most of what we do, we don't do any print ads. I haven't bought a print ad since 2012. Print, I mean display, a newspaper or magazine. We don't do direct mail anymore. Pretty standard staple in the arts world. We've cut out paid telemarketing. We've also cut out recently radio and television. No more broadcast for us. Okay, so now you're thinking, what the hell does this guy do if he doesn't do any of that stuff? We do a lot. We're big on email marketers, borderline spammers. If you're on our list, sorry. Facebook advertising. We're going to talk a lot about that. Google Display. We have a Google grant as a nonprofit, so we get some free AdWords, which is great. We do test other platforms. We dabble in a few other things like Instagram and YouTube, and we do a lot of data, which we'll talk about. I threw this slide in here for 2 reasons. I spent a lot of money to get that photo last year, and I need to use it as much as I can. But this is the story of how we got there. I'm going to start out by telling you this was not a strategic decision that we made in 2011 and 12. My boss and I didn't sit down, my team and I didn't sit down and say, hey, in 5 years, we're going to be 100% digital. This is a very iterative process. And so I'm just going to take you through those steps of how it happened for us. I don't expect anyone in the room to follow these footsteps. I would challenge you not to. Take your own step. But the thesis that I would have for those of you in the room, and hopefully while you're in this session, I would challenge everyone in this room, including myself, we're not investing enough in digital. And that's why we're at these conferences. That's why you're out making these changes and tweaks to your program. So hopefully this will give you some data points or some strategic ways to go and look at what's next for your organization. First thing we did, I already talked about this, we're big email marketers. Okay? We do a lot of email, and we do 15 to 20 emails a week. We have over 50 high-level segments. We send out a lot of emails. Okay? Nothing earth-shattering there. I assume most of you have that, but we're not afraid to email. We're not afraid of frequency. We do try to make it anticipated. We do try to make it relevant, but we're not afraid of it. Okay, step 2. We cut print, pretty much cold turkey. This is actually a strategy I inherited from my boss. So it was my job when I came in to go and actually tell all these publishers that I'm not going to spend $100,000 with you anymore. Really fun. But we're even at the point now where we don't take trade, just simply because it's not worth the creative time and energy that it goes in to get that routed through. It's just not worth it for us. So we just pretty much abandon all print publications in there. A quick funny story here I get to tell about Natalie Merchant, who was very lovely. We had a concert with Natalie Merchant several years ago. So as I'm going to our biggest print advertising partner at the time, you may know them because there's really only one in town. As I'm having these conversations to terminate our long-standing six-figure agreement, the ad rep comes back to me and has the audacity to tell me that the reason our print ads aren't working are because the creative isn't very good and because we weren't discounting our shows. Okay, so she's telling me that my creative sucks, and she's telling me that I have to discount for her product to work for me. I did not like this woman. If you've worked with her, you know who I'm talking about. Hope she's not here. So I went back to her, and I was pissed off, but I went back to her and I said, okay, I'll make you a deal. You give me an ad, whatever ad you want, whatever days you want, wherever you think it'll work, any show you want, I will give you a discount, whatever you want for a discount, and we'll track it and see how it goes. If it goes well, we'll continue to talk. So this is the ad she came up with. Natalie Merchant. She's aging well. I'm not sure why my grandmother's frame is around her. There is a promo code in there that you can't see, but there is a promo code in there. She only wanted 10% off. It was a one-night-only show, several months out, so she picked a good show for this test. And here's what happened. Okay, so that's my ad in the paper. It ran on Tuesday and Thursday, which if you're in the arts is when you typically would advertise, the arts section and the Sunday. So she gave it to me twice. I don't know what the actual column inches is on that, but a decent size ad. Okay, but I'm with the Nutcracker. Okay, my friends down the street at Ballet Arizona. Okay, that's how do I compete with beautiful ballerinas? And how the hell do either of us compete with 48 free cruises? I mean, come on. So needless to say, the ad ran twice, and it generated $2,041 from the promo code. 45 tickets. Have not talked to that ad rep since. Okay, step 3 for us. We made a significant change in our organization that everything was data-driven. And we did not make a decision if we did not have data to at least back up the hypotheses or give us a directional indication of what we thought was going to happen. Doesn't mean we were going to be right, doesn't mean it was always going to work, but we became obsessed with data. Okay, this is things like campaign reports for Facebook, obviously Google Analytics, revenue management. We go in every week and look at pricing on our shows, daily sales reporting, and sales curves, just tracking. We spend a lot of time with data. We have a lot of tools for a nonprofit that can go in and help us make decisions. So step 3 was pretty basic, but we really did make a fundamental decision that everything had to be tracked, and if we couldn't prove it, we weren't going to do it. Step 4 is a fun story. So we had not done any any digital advertising up until New Year's Eve 2013. This actually starts, I was at a conference in San Francisco where they also had big, obnoxious lanyards. And no offense, Digital Summit team. I'm walking from one event at the hotel to a mixer that night. And end up talking to a gentleman and one of his colleagues who owned a digital marketing firm out of New York. So we chatted a little bit on the way there. They invited me to the table the next day, so I stopped by their booth. He spent about a half an hour just digging into my Google Analytics, giving me a few tips, and talked to me at the time about a very new product called Facebook Custom Audience. Okay, it was brand new, and that was about August. So New Year's Eve isn't quite doing so great. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take $100. I'm going to figure out this custom audience thing. So I download historical New Year's buyers, upload it. At the time, it was just emails that you could do. Uploaded it, spent $100. Guess what? It worked. Put another $100. Kept working. It's like, maybe we're onto something. All right, by the end of that year, I had taught myself enough and my team that we spent about $10,000. Okay, very basic ads. Generated $85,000 in sales, like awesome. 847% ROI. This is cool, like great. The next year comes around, do it again. Just keep spending money as it's working. Spent $44,000. Facebook got a little bit of pricing power and started figuring some things out. We generated $175,000 in revenue. 300% ROI came down, which is fine. Okay, so at this point, two things needed to happen. One, I had to tell my boss, because I just spent $50,000 with Facebook, and they didn't know. Two, was I needed help. So I went in with these results and said, hey, by the way, I spent $50,000, but here's what happened. I've generated over 200, but I don't know how to scale this. I don't have the skills. My team doesn't have the skills. We needed help. Okay, so step 5 was we hired professionals. We use a firm out of New York called Capacity Interactive. And what I say about this is most organizations should be using an agency. Unless you're a large company, you should be trying to hire professionals, and you should be hiring someone who knows your industry. Okay? If you're B2B, if you're B2C, it's completely different. We have someone who's very specialized in the arts and selling seats for cultural institutions. And that's very beneficial for us. So I would just challenge you that if you're in that process or looking at taking this outside, definitely make that a big part of the filter in the RFP, that they've got clients in the business that you do. So a lot of people offer this, including the lady that I used to not like. That's my tip on that. So here's what happened. Now we got supercharged. Okay, we now spent $30,000 in Facebook and generated $400,000 in revenue in an entire year. ROI bumped back up because we had some professionals, 421%. We're really excited. That was just about a half a season that we did that. So 2016-17 season, our most recent, think of us kind of like a basketball season. We start in the fall, we end early summer. That year we spent $250,000 in Facebook and Google display. Generated $1.4 million in trackable sales. 400% ROI, that was healthy, that was maintaining, we were excited. And the shocking thing that blows me and everyone I talked to on our board and our senior staff, $1.1 million directly from Facebook. When I gave this talk in New York a couple months ago, there were Facebook and Google people in the room, so it was actually really funny because Google wasn't doing that much, but it was funny. Step 6, okay, we already talked about data, but we really needed to focus. Okay, so we had to take what KPIs were we going to obsess about to make these decisions. And these are the 3 that we focused on. They may work for you. Some of them probably do, but they also may not. So we focus on ROI. We also focus on cost of sale. It's a pretty standard term in the arts business. How much does it cost to sell a ticket? But what we've recently layered in is profit as a KPI. And the reason we've layered that in is I actually hate high ROIs. I hate seeing when I have a broad-based campaign that's doing 1,000% ROI, because I'm leaving money on the table. There are some individual, very hyper-targeted campaigns that it makes sense. I've got one going right now that's 3,400%. I can't spend any more money because it's hyper-targeted. But for my broad-based campaigns, I don't want to see it over that, which we talk about this. Step 7 for us, okay? So now I've got my CEO kind of on board. My CEO is a legend in the ad business. He grew up with brands like Nike, Microsoft, Apple. Convincing him that television commercials don't work anymore was really hard, okay? But at this point, I got him leaning in that direction. My staff's on board. Some of our board members are on board. Hadn't quite completely convinced everyone. So we did an A/B test. Okay? We took half of our shows in that season. I'm sorry, not half of our shows. Half of our top 10 shows, and we split them. So 10 shows, 5 of them got broadcast and traditional, a little bit of direct mail, a lot of TV, a lot of radio, a little bit of digital. The other half got broadcast only. And here's what happened. So what we did was we dissected, since we tracked everything, we took the flight dates only column up here. What that means is we dug into typically the 2 weeks that a flight would have run for us. We typically would run a TV commercial about the 2 weeks before a show. So we took that 2-week window, took all the sales that happened during that window, and started looking at what happened. Okay, first of all, we just looked at it holistically. Okay, the cost of sale for shows with broadcast was 28%. Digital only was only 11%. Okay, that's good news. Not huge, maybe not enough to say, yes, digital is the way to go. But then we went in and we started taking out all the other stuff that we could prove. If it came from an email, if it came from a discount code, if it came from a third-party site, came from a group sale, anything else that we could attribute, we started pulling that money out. Okay? The average was 154% cost of sale for our broadcast. We were losing money on our broadcast buys and our traditional mix. Okay, digital only went up a little bit, but it was still 21% cost of sale. Okay, I'm sure there's someone in the room who's really savvy and saying, well, maybe that happened because your sales went down. Very good argument, except that's not what happened. Okay, our digital only shows did 18% better, $36,000 better than our regular shows. Okay, this is what clinched it for my CEO and our board. Okay, step 8, we pulled the trigger. I say August 1st just because that's kind of like the fun day to say, but we kind of made this decision over the summer and started positioning for that. So we suspended all traditional advertising. Doesn't mean I won't go back and do a commercial again at some point if a show needs it, or place a strategic ad or something. But we suspended all of our traditional. And again, 2016-17, we had record attendance, record earned revenue, and record single tickets. We're now about 60% of the way through our season. It goes through June, first weekend of June at phoenixsymphony.org. Please check it out. And here's what's happening so far. We had an opening night. It was the record-breaking opening night for that particular program. Our Pops opener was also record-breaking. We've had our top 2 shows of all time in the last 6 months. We've also had our Holiday Pops show was up 20%, which is $50,000. So we've lost nothing by making the shift from traditional marketing. We're still vetting it out. I don't know exactly how it's going to map out. I would say at worst case, it kind of comes out neutral. We just spend about the same amount of money and generated the same amount of revenue. I think what will end up happening is I will end up generating probably 5 to 10% more revenue on a little bit less expense. So I do think it will come out ahead, but it's a little early to tell right now. But we're committed to this throughout the rest of the season. Okay, so step 9 is what's next. And this is why we're all here at this conference. Okay, the great thing about it is my boss and my board, no one's saying, hey, Todd, you figured out a way to market cheaper. No, here's less money. No one's saying that. We may realize some savings. I just cut some money from a Music of Pink Floyd show because I don't need to spend it. It's doing really well. Content creation. Okay? Video's huge. We all know this. I need to spend money creating assets, creating video assets, doing more of that, doing it earlier. SEO optimization, we need help with that. It's something we haven't invested in some time. Website and UI improvements. We have a CRM that does our ticket sales that isn't the most savvy process, and we need to invest in that and continue to invest in that. We are testing other platforms, Instagram and YouTube. Primarily, Snapchat and Twitter, they can't make money for themselves, so how the hell are they going to make me money? Emerging MarTech, I don't even know what this means, but there's a lot of it out there, and we're constantly tracking it. Influencer marketing is something that I think would be big for us, so we're trying to figure out how to test that and budget. Digital fundraising. Half of our revenue is tied up in donations and corporate support. How does digital reinforce that in a meaningful way? We haven't quite figured that out yet, but we are working. And then we are monitoring for unintended consequences. Okay, something is going to happen when we pull hundreds of thousands of dollars out of traditional media and put it into digital. Okay, for one thing, our website traffic is down about 20%. Okay, that may be okay. We'll see. It's not hurting sales right now. It may down the line, but that's something we need to monitor. Is that consistent, or did we just get rid of some weak traffic that wasn't converting? We're tracking that. Another thing is cash flow. Okay, we now have all of our marketing spend with one vendor. That's a lot of pressure to say on that vendor. That's a lot of pressure on our finance people. We can't kind of spread it out if we've got with television and radio. So there are unintended consequences that we are keeping an eye on. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up here with giving you kind of 5 takeaways. 4 for some of you, because the last one doesn't count for everyone. But tool number 1, Facebook custom audience. Okay, if you haven't used this, figure it out. If you don't know how to do it, you can probably figure it out. It's pretty easy. If not, ask any of the digital firms that are here. They would probably do it for free to just show you how to use this. Okay, and what I did here, this was one of the early things that I did to convince that I needed to keep spending more money. Okay, the symphony has a perception issue. The orchestral world has a perception issue. I know you are disappointed I'm not in a tuxedo or old yet, but we do. We have a perception that our audiences are older, and they are. Our median age now is about 43% or 43, but 5 years ago it was 66. So we do have an older audience. So the argument I got all the time was, old people don't know how to use the internet. They don't know how to use the Google and Facebook. They don't do it. I never believed that. So we use Facebook custom audience. 2 years ago, I pulled all of our ticket buyers from the 2015-16 season and uploaded it to Facebook. Okay, and the match rate was 90%. I was blown away. Someone from our web team is here. They were blown away. I would have been happy if that number would have been north of 50, let alone 90. Okay, so another year goes by, and I think, okay, maybe that's a fluke. We do it again. We did it in 2016-17. Everyone's complaining that Facebook usage is down, engagement's down, oh my goodness, what's happening? We did it again. 93% of our accounts had Facebook accounts. To me, that is 100% internet usage. Every one of our customers is using the internet, at least for basic stuff. And 93% of them like Facebook. Okay, so this is a great tool. Use it. It's a great way to convince people. If you're in the B2C space, it's a little easier, obviously, than B2B. It's a great tool. Okay. Step 2, really debunking the print media strategy. I despise print media. I value journalism. I value what they do, but from a paid market standpoint, I don't. It is a waste, I think, for most people. In the arts, I think we spend way too much money on print ads that are not effective. I would challenge anyone to test them. Of course, if you're in a B2C or maybe have a very specialized, like Tractor magazine that you need to be in, I get that. But maybe you don't. Test it. A/B test it. Data shows that my audience still uses the newspaper on a very regular basis, daily for most, which they do. But because of the quality of ads, no one's responding to ads. And like the best shareability you're going to get from a newspaper is like, hey, Merle, like, did you see what the Phoenix Symphony is doing? Like at Einstein's, and like I see that happen. But that's it. I mean, one share on their Facebook account, and all of their friends know. Step 3, I would definitely suggest that you set ROI expectations. This is both internally for you, as well as how you communicate. And the reason this is important is, 1, pick a number that you're comfortable with and that's right for your business. For us, I like to see paid media generate about a 300% return. Okay, that covers administrative costs. It covers that way we're at least got enough margin in there then we're doing okay. I have no idea what that number is for your business. But what I do know is I can confidently tell anyone that if I spend $1 or $10,000 on Facebook and Google, I am more often than not going to turn that into at least $30,000. And the question is then, what else can generate those kinds of returns on a consistent basis? And if I can't prove it, we're not going to spend the money to do it. We may test, we may go into influencer marketing and spend money doing that, and if it doesn't yield those returns, we may not do that. So it's really important. I'm giving you my number, 300%. That may not work for your business, but I would definitely try to set that, and you can be consistent and confident that you can deliver those results with the right web strategy. Okay. A/B tests, the power of the A/B test. We talk about it all the time with website utilization or website testing and emails and all sorts of things. Do it on your total marketing mix. Okay? In my case, we pulled everything out from, literally $1 million in revenue we risked to test this. I would challenge you to do the same thing. If you think you have to be in Tractor Magazine because you sell tractors, what happens if you don't 1 year or 1 quarter? Pull it out. Invest in lead generation or a website improvement or a blog or something. Test it and just follow the data. The last thing I'll say here, this is for my nonprofit friends in the room, this is a great funding opportunity. There are a lot of grant organizations and individuals who will support an initiative like this. One thing we did early on was we actually asked for $100,000 from a major foundation in town, and they helped us test this fairly risk-free. I will tell you 2 things. One is $100,000 was not enough. And 2, again, same thing. Get creative on how you can test what you're doing. Even if you're in the for-profit space or B2B space, where can you free up money to be more aggressive in the digital side and the transactional side? And with that, I have a little bit of time for a couple questions.